A political tremor is shaking the Canadian Confederation, sending shockwaves from coast to coast and raising urgent questions about the future of the nation as we know it. At the very heart of this upheaval is Alberta, a province long known for its independent spirit and economic clout, now finding itself at the epicenter of a growing movement for change. The latest surge in the Wexit movement is unlike anything seen before. It's more organized, more vocal, and more urgent, capturing the attention of not just Albertans, but the entire country. What once seemed like a fringe idea has now become a mainstream topic, forcing Canadians everywhere to pay attention and engage in the debate. Alberta, often described as the economic engine of Canada thanks to its vast natural resources and thriving industries, is now seriously contemplating the unthinkable, leaving the Canadian Federation. This isn't just a political statement, it's a move that would fundamentally challenge the country's identity, unity, and long-term stability. The surge in separatist sentiment which erupted in August 2025 has dominated headlines, filled airwaves, and sparked heated debates in Parliament, on social media, and around kitchen tables nationwide. The question of Alberta's future is now front and center in the national conversation. For many Canadians, the very idea of Alberta breaking away is unthinkable, almost surreal. It challenges the core values of unity and cooperation that have defined the country for generations. Yet, for a growing number of Albertans, the prospect of independence is starting to look less like a radical dream, and more like the only viable solution to decades of perceived frustration, neglect, and unfair treatment by Ottawa. Proponents of Wexit are no longer just venting their anger or expressing dissatisfaction. They're taking concrete steps, organizing grassroots campaigns, drafting detailed proposals, and building networks of support across the province. Legal experts, politicians, and community leaders are coming together to build a real, actionable case for independence, exploring the legal, economic, and social implications of such a historic move. The movement is forcing a national conversation about fairness, representation, and the distribution of power and resources within the Federation. Canadians from all walks of life are now debating what it means to be part of this country, and whether the current system truly serves everyone. At stake is not just Alberta's future, but the very structure of the Canadian Federation itself. The debate is prompting a re-examination of federalism, provincial rights, and the delicate balance that holds the country together. Alberta's potential departure would be a complex, painful process, fraught with legal, economic, and emotional challenges. The implications would be massive for both Alberta and the rest of Canada, affecting everything from trade and energy to national identity and international relations. As the nation grapples with this unprecedented moment, the path forward remains deeply uncertain. One thing is clear, the stakes have never been higher, and the decisions made in the coming months will shape the future of Canada for generations to come. Wexit, a blend of West and Exit, is the Western Canadian answer to Brexit, branding the idea of separation in a single powerful word. The roots of Western alienation run deep, dating back to the National Energy Program of the 1980s, which many Albertans saw as Ottawa seizing their resource wealth. Over the years, separatist sentiment has surged whenever federal policies hurt Alberta's oil and gas sector, or when Ottawa seemed indifferent to Western concerns. Today's Wexit movement is more sophisticated, using social media and detailed plans for an independent Alberta. At its core, it's about a long-standing feeling of being outsiders in their own country. Alberta's push for separation is rooted in a sense of economic injustice. Many Albertans believe they fuel Canada's economy, but are penalized through the federal equalization program, which they see as a drain on their wealth. Federal environmental policies and pipeline blockades are viewed as direct attacks on Alberta's vital oil and gas industry. Beyond economics, there's a cultural and political disconnect. Albertans feel their values are ignored in Ottawa, dominated by Ontario and Quebec. The result is a powerful sense of alienation and political powerlessness. For many, separation is a reluctant last resort after years of trying to work within Confederation. It's seen as the only way to regain control and secure Alberta's future. The August 2025 Wexit announcement sent shockwaves across Canada. News outlets broke into regular programming, and social media exploded with debate and disbelief. For many Canadians, the idea of Alberta leaving was suddenly real and urgent. The story went viral, with influencers and content creators explaining the crisis to new audiences. The stock market wobbled, and the Canadian dollar dipped as investors reacted to the uncertainty. For the first time since Quebec's referendums, national unity was in question. The Wexit movement has ignited a passionate and often polarizing debate, splitting public opinion not just within Alberta, but across the entire country. The idea of Alberta separating from Canada has become a lightning rod for discussions about identity, fairness, and the future of the Federation. For many Albertans, the call for separation is rooted in a deep sense of frustration. They see Wexit as a path to greater prosperity and self-determination, a way to take control of their own economic destiny and escape what they perceive as constant federal interference. Supporters argue that Alberta's wealth and resources could be better managed by Albertans themselves, without Ottawa's oversight. But there are strong voices of caution. Critics warn that leaving Canada would plunge Alberta into economic uncertainty, spark complex negotiations over trade, borders and resources, and leave the province isolated as a landlocked nation. Business owners worry about losing access to Canadian markets, and economists debate the risks of going it alone. Beyond Alberta's borders, most Canadians are opposed to Wexit, yet many acknowledge the province's grievances. They recognize the sense of alienation that has fueled the movement, even if they don't agree with separation as the solution. Some Canadians hope for compromise and renewed dialogue, believing that the Federation can adapt to address Alberta's concerns. Others, however, are growing weary and frustrated by repeated threats of separation, seeing them as divisive and destabilizing. In Quebec, the Wexit debate feels familiar. Sovereigntists see clear parallels with their own independence movement, while Federalists worry that another province's push for separation could reignite old tensions and threaten national stability. Ultimately, the Wexit debate is forcing Canadians to reflect on what truly holds the country together, and what could potentially tear it apart. It's a moment of reckoning for the nation's sense of unity and shared purpose. This is more than a political dispute. It's a test of national identity, unity, and the willingness of Canadians to find common ground in the face of deep divisions. The conversation is raw, emotional, and deeply revealing, exposing the hopes, fears, and frustrations that shape the Canadian experience today. Across the country, Canadians are watching closely, asking themselves, can the Federation survive this latest challenge, or will the pressures prove too great? As the debate rages on, one question remains at the heart of it all. Is Canada at a breaking point, or can it find a way to come together once again? Alberta's government is walking a tightrope, acknowledging separatist anger while trying to keep the province in Canada. Premier Danielle Smith has validated Albertans' frustrations but insists her goal is to secure a better deal within Confederation, not to leave. The government uses the threat of separation as leverage, introducing measures like the Alberta Sovereignty Act to assert provincial rights. This strategy risks fueling the Wexit fire if Ottawa doesn't deliver real change. Failure to win concessions could push moderates toward outright separatism. The government's balancing act is a calculated performance, tough on Ottawa but cautious about chaos. The stakes, Alberta's future and the unity of the country. Political leaders across Canada have responded swiftly to Alberta's Wexit surge. Saskatchewan's premier urges unity, warning that separation is a dangerous path. British Columbia fears economic and logistical chaos if Alberta becomes a foreign country between BC and the rest of Canada. Ontario and Quebec stress the importance of economic partnership and national stability, calling for solutions at the federal level. Quebec's response is especially measured, drawing on its own experience with sovereignty debates and urging dialogue and respect. Across the country, leaders agree. Alberta's grievances must be heard, but the answer lies in reform, not rupture. The message is clear. Canada's future depends on finding common ground. The alternative is a fractured nation, with consequences for all. Canada now faces several possible futures. One path is negotiation and reform. Ottawa could address Alberta's grievances with real changes to equalization, energy policy, and provincial autonomy. Another path is confrontation, with legal battles and a possible referendum on separation if talks fail. A third scenario is prolonged uncertainty, with Wexit remaining a powerful but unresolved force. Any outcome will be messy, with complex negotiations over borders, trade, and national assets if separation proceeds. The Wexit push has already changed Canada, forcing a reckoning with the Federation's flaws. The choices made now will shape the country for generations. The future hangs in the balance. Wexit is more than a fight over pipelines or payments, it's a test of Canada's soul. At its core, this movement is not just about economics or resources, but about identity, belonging, and the very fabric that holds the country together. The debate forces Canadians to confront uncomfortable questions about what it truly means to be part of a nation as vast and diverse as Canada. It asks whether the country is bound by shared values or just by convenience. Are Canadians united by a common vision for the future, or are they simply coexisting out of necessity? These questions echo in town halls, coffee shops, and family dinner tables across the country, sparking passionate discussions about fairness, representation, and respect. Alberta's separatists argue the costs of staying outweigh the benefits, challenging the idea of a united nation. They point to perceived injustices, such as unequal economic policies and a lack of political influence, as reasons for their growing frustration. For many, it's not just about oil or money, it's about feeling heard and valued within the Federation. The crisis exposes deep regional identities and the limits of Canada's political system, where some provinces feel perpetually sidelined. This sense of alienation is not new, but Wexit has brought it to the forefront, forcing the rest of the country to pay attention. The debate highlights the challenge of balancing regional interests with national unity. Wexit is a symptom of a federation in need of reform, one that must find better ways to represent all its regions. The movement is a wake-up call, urging leaders to address long-standing grievances and rethink how power and resources are shared. Without meaningful change, the risk of further division only grows. The outcome will depend on leaders' willingness to compromise and citizens' openness to tough conversations. It will require empathy, creativity, and a genuine commitment to building bridges between communities. Only by listening to each other and working together can Canadians hope to find solutions that respect everyone's needs. The real question, can Canada adapt and stay united, or is this the beginning of the end? The country stands at a crossroads, facing a pivotal moment in its history. The choices made now will shape not only Alberta's future, but the destiny of the entire nation. The answer will define the nation's future. Whether Canada emerges stronger and more united, or more divided than ever, depends on the courage and vision of its people and leaders.